Going for two, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 282 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Geoff Lambert, and you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, we are here live every night, Wednesday and Fridays on the Going for Two Live Podcast Network. We are on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. And, of course, we are syndicated on all major podcast networks. If you are on Twitter watching this and you want to comment on the show, you'll have to go find us on YouTube. Just look for youtube.com/going2live. We cannot see your comments coming from Twitter. So if you want to talk to us, ask us some questions, go find us on YouTube. And make sure to hit that subscribe button while you're there as well. All right, I'm here with my co-hosts as always. We got Gerson over here who's wearing like a little hoodie looking like he's about to go out in the storm. What's up, Gerson?
I'm going fishing, man. I'm going fishing for that money, you know. What I'm gonna do. Not much, man. Just another week, and every week I look forward to football. Like as soon as 5 o'clock comes, I'm like, peace out, work. I'm out, and I'm ready just for football, man.
Yes, sir, indeed. Tim, man, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing real good. Had a good week last week. Ready to keep it rolling into this week. Feeling great.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the rewind.
The weekly rewind. Rewind.
All right, the new way of doing rewind, we give one good play and one bad play that we had the previous week. I'll go to you first, Tim. Give me your good and your bad.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts. Paying out for Jalen Hurts last week definitely saved my week. Had a couple of guys not perform, but Jalen Hurts made sure that I got to the cash.
Good stuff. Yeah, Hurts killed it. What about your bad?
Yeah, it was that fake-ass wide receiver one known as Justin Jefferson. I thought I'd be smart paying up for Diggs and Jefferson last week, and he really let me down. I think he had 4.4 DraftKings points. So I saw a meme today I posted in the chat and said when he says he's got that dog in him, and it was Justin Jefferson, was Courage the Cowardly Dog. So –
yeah, unfortunately, Jared's not in the chat tonight, so he'll be watching this on replay, so he won't be able to respond. But Jared, of course, the Vikings fan of the group here. Gerson, give us your one good and your one bad from last week.
You hear the fake ass wide receiver though. Yeah, my good was the Eagles defense, man. I kept pounding the table on the Eagles defense. I think this defense is elite, but it's only improving because I think they're so deep. And that was a great call. My bad call was David Montgomery. He was my heaviest owned player, but I can't control injuries. I mean, I've seen people on Twitter go off on fantasy players for getting hurt and stuff, and it's the worst when they come after us. We're just giving you out free plays. Why did you tell me to play David Montgomery? Oh, my bad, dog. Hold on. I didn't know we could play Madden mode where I could just take off the injuries, you know? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the process was right, obviously, because Khalil Herbert went out. You know, he balled out. So I think we had the right position, the right team, the right everything. We just didn't have the right player because he got hurt, and Herbert came in and balled out. Yeah. So my one good last week was one of my value receivers, Chris Olave. I mentioned on the show his air yards and how ridiculous it was. And, of course, he had a pretty big game last week with Jameis Winston's YOLO balls that we all love. And then my bad was my lock of the week last week, Amon-Ra St. Brown. The injury kind of messed up a little bit. He went out with the ankle injury, didn't look explosive when he came back, so that kind of hurt him a little bit. He was doing well up to that point, but that ankle injury definitely hurt him for the rest of the game. Obviously, it knocked him out for this week as well. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the quarterbacks.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, we're at the top here, Tim. I'll go to you first. There's 3 guys that we have in our top tier, and we all have the same 3 guys. So go ahead and pick whatever one you want to talk about.
I'm going to talk about Josh Allen. He's probably my favorite. He's my favorite quarterback this week. Multiple reasons, but he's playing against a Baltimore secondary that's given up basically most fantasy points this year. I mean, it is just free money, and he's coming off a game where he got beat by the Dolphins. So you get the mad factor to go with it. But highest over under on the week. I think he's, and the pricing is basically the same, right? Like that's the one thing we're going to talk about here. All 3 of these guys are within $200. So it's really just kind of pick your favorite flavor of ice cream at this point. And I'm going to go with Josh Allen.
All right. Concerned with the weather issues there? I know I live here on the East Coast. It's going to be pretty nasty for a couple days.
Yeah, it's definitely something to monitor. Our local expert, Scott, is telling us it's going to be a little light rain. The wind's not going to be too bad. Something to monitor. I don't mind a little light rain. It's really wind that I care about. If it stays under 20 miles an hour, I think we're good to go.
Agreed. All right, Gerson, pick one of those 2 guys that are left there in our elite tier, and I'll take the last one.
I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts. I think this is the 4th. Every week we've been touting him, so it's not going to change. I said it like 2-3 weeks ago, I think it was. I said, I think Jalen Hurts can be quarterback 1 overall. Like, it was a hot take, but I don't think it's a hot take anymore. He legit has the arsenal to do it. He has the weapon. We saw it last week. I think all 3 of them got a touchdown, right? Smith, A.J. Brown, and Goddard.
Yep.
Oh,
So, like, that's the ceiling right there. And, I mean, I just love – what's so funny? Huh?
He's laughing at the chat.
Okay. But just give me Hurt, 8,200. I think he's going to be the highest owned quarterback this week. I think I got him already Allen is, but at 10%. I love the over-under. And finally, this is not a Jacksonville Jaguar defense offense or the Urban Meyer team, I guess you can say. They're actually competitive. And I can see this game being more competitive than people think. I disagree with the spread on this game. I was kind of shocked at it. I thought
6.5, right?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a lot closer. I thought it was going to be closer than that. I don't think Jacksonville is a terrible team, but give me that game. I love Hurts with his rushing upside.
Yeah, I love that call as well. And you're right, Jacksonville, I think right now is top 5, I believe, on the defensive side of the ball. They've been playing really well defensively. Now this will be a true test here because this Eagles offense is really good as well. So I'll take
DVOA overall. No, I was just going to say they're number 4 overall in DVOA.
Yeah, I knew that.
And I agree. I think those 2 guys are going to be the clear number 1 and 2 in terms of ownership for quarterback.
Yep. Agreed. I'll take the 3rd guy there. And, these 3 guys, if we were going to pick an MVP right now, it'd probably between these 3 guys right now. Lamar Jackson at 8.3 up against that same, Buffalo, the Buffalo game with the high total. Obviously, Jackson's got the legs. He's got the arm. He's got some decent weapons as well. So in that high total game, L. Jax is also in play. He's pretty much always in play with those legs. He can get you that high floor. And then, of course, when he gets to passing very well, he gets that high ceiling as well. So 8.3. Gerson, we're going to move down to the mid-tier, and you're the only one that has a mid-tier quarterback, so I'll let you talk about the one guy there. I had him on my list, and then I crossed him out because someone got ruled out, and I didn't trust him as much anymore.
I would say a word, but I don't want to say it here. It rhymes with wussy. Justin Herbert, man. I think if you were to save $1,000 off those top 3 elite quarterbacks, it'd definitely be the Herbert. I think Herbert last week, we all thought he was hurt. Well, he is hurt, but he balled out still. I mean, he still did pretty good. Last week's game was ugly, though. I mean, he got 300 yards and 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but 300 yards, what we're always looking – well, he got 297, but, pretty close to 300 yards. But the 45 pass attempt is what really got my attention. The other thing that gets my attention is that Chargers defense is hurting.
Yeah,
it's hurting. No J.C. Jackson, no Joey Bosa. That means that the Houston Texans can probably score on them. Keep it competitive. 7,100, get his stack. The injury that Jeff was talking about, Keenan Allen is out, but I love the secondary options that they have there. Aside of Mike Williams, and I'll talk about the value play of that game. But give me Herbert. I think he's going to be lowly owned. He's going to be like under 5%. And let's say Herbert goes out there and gets 35 points, and then all these elite quarterbacks only get 20, or 21 or something, Herbert's going to jump the field. GPP only.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think Gerson's got a fire alarm that's going to be low on battery. So I apologize for the beeping in the background.
So I actually, as you know, I had a mid-range play. It was Aaron Rodgers, and I took him off the sheet when Mac Jones was officially ruled out. It was kind of be expected, but he was my puke stack of the week because everybody this week I think is going to pay all the way up for quarterback or all the way down, right? That's kind of the way the builds are going this week. Either you're paying up for Allen Hurts or you're paying down to one of the guys we're about to talk about. So I just I removed the bias on the sheet and just went straight down to the values.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and talk about one of those values there. Leave the one that Gerson has for him.
Okay. I want to talk about this. I'll tell you what, I'll talk about Geno because I couldn't believe Dino Smith came up when I ran projections last night as my number one value quarterback. Like I had to do it 3 times, but it's because the Detroit Lions defense is so bad and they play so quickly and they score so quickly that other team gets so much time on offense and they can't stop really anybody. Obviously, Geno has 2 solid weapons, which we'll talk about later. It's good game environment, and he's only 5,400, right? I have him projected for over 18 points, more than 3 times value. So I think you want to play up for a quarterback this week, but if you don't, I think Geno is one of my favorite pay down options.
All right, Gerson, you got one guy in your value tier. Go ahead and mention your guy.
Yeah, I can't believe that we're actually talking about Dino Smith being a value. Like, Jesus Christ, man. I can't do it, man. I'm like the only reason why I might do it is because Jason has been whispering in my ear, dude, he's a good player. He's a good player. But in my head, like you guys know me, like I'll listen to people, but I deep go down with my gut feeling, Marcus Mariota, man. I love how Marcus Mariota basically been shit on his whole life. Like, I mean, not his whole life, but like NFL career,
Yeah.
But he's balling out this year. I mean, on low pass attempt, I mean, he's getting touchdowns, he's getting rushing upside. I think week 1 he had 17 yards and a touchdown, right? So rushing upside. 215 yards. That's I mean, we're looking for more yards, obviously, but he's a value due to his price, and I expect this game to be a little bit of more shootout than people think, and Vegas agrees with me. I think right now they have it at 50 points, and he's coming up as my number one value. It's tied with Dino Smith, but then again, you guys know how I feel about Dino already. And the ownership is coming up at 8.4%. That's pretty high for a value quarterback like that. So now I do want to talk about this real quick, Jeff. These 2 value quarterbacks allow you to open up a shitload of money. So that's the only reason why you're going to play them is to play the stud at the running back and the wide receiver position, because value, in my opinion, this week, it's good. There's good value, but now that you're looking at, you can get a value out of a quarterback, maybe you don't need to go to that other value, like running back or wide receiver, Yeah. And I love the stack. I love the game environment. I think this game's very underrated for stack combination. I mean, Cleveland's hurting too. I don't think Miles Garrett's playing, right? So, and I don't know how to say his whole name, but JOK, he's out too. That defense is hurting. I think the offense, we saw they're clicking, like shoving them, But I think this game, stacking with Pitt and what's his name, London.
Yeah. Hey, Clowney may not play either too. So
yeah, lots of players
on that.
So I had a couple guys that are basically pivots off those 2. Those 2 are the main really values. I have Danny Dimes in there for that rushing upside. We saw him last week. He had 9 rushes for 80 yards. That gives you a nice floor. At 5.4, he's a good pivot off of those 2 guys against Chicago, who hasn't looked very good, and they're at home as well. So Danny Dimes is in there. And then I put Matt Ryan on here because I've had him on here a couple of times, and I think if he's going to do it at all, this has to be the game. I think Tennessee is like 26 versus the pass right now. He's at home. Tennessee has not looked good on defense at 5.6. Again, another pivot off those other higher owned guys that you can pivot to if you wanted to take them and stack them with Pittman, because he's pretty much his only weapon over there besides JT, obviously.
Yeah, the only other guy I had was Jared Goff, but now that Amon-Ra, aka the Sun God, has been ruled out, I'm a little bit lower on Goff. So.
And Swift is doubtful, right?
Yeah, Swift's not going to play.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's not going to play.
He's out already. They declared him out early on.
They did declare him out.
Yeah, he's not playing.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into tight ends.
Did somebody say tight ends?
All right, so the top tier is basically one guy. He's in the tier by himself. So, Tim, I'll go to you. You talk about the guy in the top tier, and then we'll go to Gerson.
Yeah, it's the best, like we were talking about earlier. It's probably the best game environment of the week, if not certainly one of the best of. And he's clearly on his own tier, right? Mark Andrews. There's no Travis Kelce on this slate. Kyle Pitts is on this slate, but nobody really cares. I mean, it's really Mark Andrews on his whole other level here. He's the only one on this slate that really has that 25 plus point upside that you would need in a tournament if he goes off, right? So we talked about why would you pay down for quarterback? It's because you want that leverage that paying up for tight end gives you. Last week, we talked about paying up for Mark Andrews. We talked about how it was going to be leverage. Everybody was going to be paying down. What happened? He went off. If you had Mark Andrews, you probably won a lot of money last week. So it's all about, zigging when the field is zagging. And this week, nobody's going to pay up for Mark Andrews, or at least not a lot of people. So you should be doing it.
Agreed. All right, so yeah, we all had the same top tier guys, so we'll move down to the mid tier. Gerson, give me one of your guys in the mid tier.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm gonna be overexposed. I was overexposed last week. If you caught the Sunday show, I told you guys that I was very limited at tight end. Like I like to narrow down my tight end list to probably 5 or 6 guys. I think tight end and defense is a position that you really just want to hit, because once you hit those, even get low ownership, you're not gonna get low ownership on Kyle Pitts this week though. He's 5K again, which is shocking because I thought that price would go up. He has a market share of 28%. I mean, he's getting the usage, but I mean, we're wondering what Kyle Pitt we're gonna get. But like I said, I'm going to target this game. I got Mariota. I got the Browns. Give me Kyle Pitt. I think the breakout's coming. I mean, people consider last week the breakout. That's not a breakout for me. I'm waiting for that 1 touchdown, 100 yards. 7 catches, the Kyle Pitt, we know the ceiling, Well, me and Jeff, because we play Dynasty, so.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's funny because they had that stat, I'm sure y'all saw it as well, that Jelani Woods now has more career touchdowns than Kyle Pitts because he caught 2 last week. It's insane to think this guy's played three games. He's got more career touchdowns than Pitts. So please, Pitts, get into the end zone. All right, Tim, give me one of your mid-tier guys.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pat Fryermuth, a.k.a. the Muth of Luth, man. His target volume has been pretty consistent. Last week, he only had 4 against Cleveland, but I think this week against the Jets, it sets up as a great spot. They're pretty weak against tight end, and I think he's got a great matchup. They'll try and cover him with a linebacker, C.J. Mosley, and I think he wins that matchup. So I think it's a good play. He's 4,200 based on expected target volume. I think it's a good game environment for them as well. With Zach Wilson expected to come back for the Jets this week, I think that Pittsburgh's going to basically be able to do whatever they want on offense because I don't expect that they're going to be down. So I think that really benefits everybody on Pittsburgh, but certainly Pat Fryermuth.
Yeah, good call there. My favorite mid-tier guy is going to be Tyler Conklin at 3.6 versus Pittsburgh. I mean, it's kind of crazy. You look at some of the stats that he's put up so far. Only 3 tight ends have more targets than him currently: Kelce, Andrews, and Ertz. And only Andrews has more catches than him right now. I mean, you wouldn't think that he's been doing that well. I think he's tight end 4 in season long. So with that kind of volume at 3.6, you're getting a pretty big discount off some of those other guys we mentioned, and you're getting similar production out of him too. So I think that's a great way to. He's probably going to be pretty high owned. I haven't looked at ownership yet, but I'm assuming that at 3.6 with that production, he'll be fairly high owned. But another way to get to that mid tier where you can get some of the other players in there. We got tons of mid tier tight ends, so we'll go back around one more time. Gerson, give us one more of your mid tier.
Well, I'm just going to talk about T.J. Hawkinson pretty quick. I mean, Swift is out. Dude, I gotta ask, man. But DeAndre Swift's shoulder, shit, man. How did that guy wipe his ass, man? If that shoulder's so fucked up, man. But he keeps being questionable or plays. But T.J. Hawkinson's gonna get the volume with no Swift, no Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, they're gonna be throwing the guys we'll name him in the value, but give me Hawkinson. I expect him to get peppered with a lot of target in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's one of the more chalkier tight ends too, for that reason you just mentioned.
Yeah.
You have probably one of the biggest chalk guys there, Tim, in the mid tier, who finally broke out last week on Thursday night.
Yeah, Njoku. Yeah, I mean he's expected to play. I mean he was limited in practice, but I think he'll play, and he gets to play the Atlanta Falcons, who are a terrible defense. So I think that's a good play. But I want to talk about somebody that was actually mentioned in the chat that I missed on my sheet, and that's Gerald Everett. With Keenan Allen being ruled out today, I think that Gerald Everett's going to get more of that slot role. I know that people always jump to the next slot guy, but a lot of times when a slot guy goes down, you want to target the tight end. So at 4K, I think he's a good play. He also has a great matchup against Houston's linebacker. So I think he's going to go under-owned at 4K, and I think he's got he's a great play this week. So I'm going to skip over Njoku and go with Gerald Everett.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, and Njoku's also in play, so I'll just mention him at 3.7, and I'll mention my other guy, Zach Ertz, is more of a pivot. He's kind of expensive at 4.7, but the Cardinals receivers right now are so injured right now. They need some targets, and Zach Ertz has been getting a ton of targets. Going up against Carolina, so at 4.7, he's a GPP play only, but he's my other mid-tier guy. All right, let's move down into the mid-tier, or into the value tier. Gerson, give me one of your values there.
I think the guy I want to talk about, actually, I have to talk about it because Tim doesn't want to talk about Green Bay Packers. So it's Robert Tonyan, or is it Tunyon or Funyon, whatever the fuck his name is. Yeah, it's Robert Tonyan. I mean, he has the biggest role on the Green Bay Packers. He has 58% of snap last week, and he racks up about 15% target share. So all I need him to do is get me a touchdown. And I think in this game, he can get that. Obviously, don't go bet your house money on it, but, we've seen what Aaron Rodgers does I think Aaron Rodgers kind of like this year, the Green Bay Packers team is like, all right, how are we going to beat this team and how we're going to keep their offense off the field,
Yeah.
And they run the ball, short passes, get first down, get it done. I mean, they did it last week versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it worked, it was Tampa Bay, right?
Yep, last week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, give me Tonyan. So cheap too, 3.7K. 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5.
Go ahead, Tim, talk about one of your values.
Well, I'd say I only have one guy that you don't have, but I'm going to steal your guy, and I apologize. Because I think there are two themes of this week when it comes to value, right? Who is Jared Goff going to throw the ball to, and who is Daniel Jones going to throw the ball to, right? Nailing those values, I think, is going to be the key to this week. And one way that's going to be a lower-owned access is going to be Daniel Bellinger, right, at 2.8K. So this is the same play we had a couple weeks ago with Juwan Johnson. He gets similar volume, used similarly in that offense. I think we can expect probably about 5 or 6 targets at 2,800. This is another one of those options you have, right? If you don't want to pay down at quarterback, you can save an extra 800-900 at tight end versus everybody else and use that money to upgrade another position. So obviously he has no floor, right? This is somebody who could realistically get you a 0 or a 2 on any given week. But I think his target volume is high enough to where he gives you a decent floor and about the same kind of ceiling as most of these other value guys.
Yeah, that's a good call. And that you had my guy, so I had a few stats on him too. Like you mentioned already with having no people to throw to, but his snap percentage has gone up every single game this year. I think he started off at like 36 and then 48, and he got 60% last week. So he's definitely trending in the right direction. I had one more guy. I was trying to pull him up because I just actually got mentioned to him. Someone mentioned to me before I came on the show. I was going to take a look at him. It's a super punt play, but a friend of mine who I trust, he likes Trey Mckinney. I know we talked about Everett already. McKinney in week 1 did have some decent production, and at that 2.5, he's basically free. It's very, very deep punt, but somebody I trust said that he thinks. Go ahead, Gerson. I see you raising your hand over there.
I was actually typing in Trey Mckinney too, and then I deleted him because I'm like, no, I can't do this to the people. So thank you, Jeff.
Yeah,
I'm not even going to say that was going to be a sit call. Then he changed it.
I'll take one for the team on this one. Yeah, it's actually Aaron's the one that pointed him out to me. He came on the show I think last year to fill in for somebody.
Yeah.
So he got some really good opinions. I think he's the one that hit on Brevin Jordan last year who had the 2 touchdown game. That was his sit call. So he's got the tight end pedigree. So Trey McKinney. All right, Tim, you had one more value there. Did you want to mention him real quick? Because he was mentioned.
Yeah, just Evan Ingram. He was one of my punt plays. I like some of the other guys we've talked about more. I like him as kind of a run back option. If you're going to do a Jalen Hurts stack and you want a cheap option on Jacksonville, I think Evan Ingram's an option there. I also think you'll get him at lower ownership than some of the other guys we've talked about. So that's kind of my reasoning there. Yeah, he said, I see Damien mentioned value T tight end. I'm looking at as Evan Ingram. So we're on the same page there.
All right, guys, we have a new sponsor. No House Advantage is changing the game. Play in Pick'em style contest for a shot to win $150K. Download the No House Advantage app and use our promo code GF2 to get a deposit match up to $25. Bet on up to 5-player props, over-unders, individual player matchups across all major sports, including MMA, NASCAR, and PGA. Again, our promo code is GF2. Use it at nohouseadvantage.com or download the app in the App Store and get your first deposit match. No House Advantage. It's not how you play, but where you play.
It's time for running backs. Running backs. Lock it in.
All right, this is my lock it in play. So far, I have not done good on my lock it in plays, and I'm going back to the well here. We had him as a lock in play, I think in week 2. Saquon Barkley versus Chicago at home at 8K. I mean, what do I got to say about this guy? He's definitely looks explosive. He looks like the Saquon Barkley we all know. As long as he's healthy, I think he's going to be really involved in this offense. We mentioned earlier about the lack of targets for Daniel Jones, where Barkley can catch passes out of the backfield. Obviously has the rushing ability to break one at any time, like we saw last week as well. Bears are 22nd in DVOA versus the run. So Barkley, I think, is my lock of the week, and hopefully he doesn't burn us like he did in week 2. But yeah, that's my lock. Tim, let's go to you for one of your elite plays here.
Hey, go to Gerson first because it's his lock of the week too.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck, man?
Oh, my bad. It was on the sheet earlier. I didn't even see it. Go ahead. Your lock of the week too. I'll hit the drop for you. Hold on.
Lock it in.
Yeah, the leftover. What's up, G? There you go.
I'm looking out for you, G.
Thank you. At least someone thank you, Tim. You're a good friend. Yeah, Khalil Herbert, man. I always thought that Khalil Herbert was talented. I didn't know he was this talented. I always thought he was more like a scat running back, like the PPR running back by committee. But I actually think he might be better than David Montgomery as a full-time running back. He proved it last week. I mean, he had 150 yards. I don't even know if Montgomery done that in his career, It's crazy, but I love him at his price. I think he's going to get all the usage. And I think Jamal Williams is going to go more over-owned than Khalil Herbert. And I'd rather have Khalil Herbert by a mile. It's not even close to me. Because I think against this what's their name? It's the Texans, right?
The Giants.
Against the Giants, I can see him having a good game. I just think he's going to get all the usage.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I can't. I mean, Travis Ebner.
Yeah.
Nobody. And it's crazy because usually when I see a value, like he's 3.12 times value. So that's almost 18 points for me. 18 points for a 5.7K running back. I'm all in on him, man. I'm going to have probably the highest exposure to him. Hopefully it doesn't backfire like last week, like Montgomery, but I'll make sure I take off the Madden injury, this week, guys.
So I have a stat I wanted to mention. Me and Jeff were talking about this before the show. EPA, right? Expected points added. So every time the Chicago Bears drop back to pass, their expected points added is negative 0.3. Negative 0.3. And every time they run the ball, it's positive 0.1. So they are running straight up wishbone, old school football where they're going to, throw the ball maybe 20, 25 times a game, and they're going to run it 40 times a game. And I agree. I think he's got arguably the safest floor this week at running back, particularly in the mid-range.
Yeah. And I'll take my victory lap. I wrote an article for Fantasy Pros back in July. They wanted me to write about players that were outside the 250, the top 250. And I wrote about Khalil Herbert, and I basically compared him to Montgomery. Now, small sample size, obviously, but stats-wise, on a per-game basis, Montgomery was better in a lot of categories. He had better yards per average. He had better elusive rating. I mean, pretty much every category you can point to, Herbert was better than Montgomery. So I'm glad that we got to see it, and I'm glad that he looked really good doing it. Feel bad for Montgomery, but right now, Khalil Herbert is definitely my play too at 5.7.
So I have a question for you guys. I know, Gerson, you don't really play cash games, so this isn't going to probably – I know yours is probably going to be no, but –
I already know what you're going to say. I already know.
Do you play Herbert and Saquon in the same cash lineup? Because they are both projected well. They're playing against each other. Obviously, usually you don't play running backs against each other. But this is a weird slate for running backs. So
I think you do. You can, because I can't see this game going anywhere but just through the running back. Barkley, he has that PPR upside too, and so does Herbert. They both can catch the ball very well. And no, man, I don't want to ruin it later for my stack, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll pick up from here. I'll give a shout out to Jared, a.k.a. Yeti. And I'm going to go with his lock of the week, which is Jonathan Taylor. Right? Anytime Jonathan Taylor is under 9K, you think about playing Jonathan Taylor. And then this week, he gets to play against the Tennessee Titans, right? 20th DVOA against the run. I think we saw what Saquon Barkley did against him in week 1. I think that Indianapolis, maybe they scraped away a win. They know what their win condition is, and it's on the back of Jonathan Taylor. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ran the ball 30, 35 times this game or something crazy like that. I think he's basically a lock for 20, 25 points. We were talking earlier in the show, if you want to pay down at quarterback, it's because you're paying up for somebody, and I think that somebody is Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I like it. I'll give one of my elite guys here, and I was really the last elite guy in my tier. Then Gerson's got a couple guys he wants to talk about, but I'm gonna go Nick Chubb here versus Atlanta, 7.9. And really, what put me onto this is that what Tim just talked about, that expected points added. He put a visual chart up on the Facebook page, and it was showing basically like who has the best matchup for run defense versus run offense. Mm-hmm. And there's all these cluster of little helmets in the middle, and then all the way to the right over there, is the Cleveland Browns. I think this game script's going to favor Nick Chubb. I think his price point, he can put up similar numbers, in that elite tier at 7.9. I think he's definitely in play. Let's go to you, Gerson. You got a bunch of guys there in your elite tier. Which one do you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, I do want to mention Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to have exposure to him. But one stat that really shocked me this year, I heard it on a podcast, is that the Indianapolis Colts, like the reason why the top running backs like Jonathan Taylor and McCaffrey aren't doing good is because they're not getting to the red zone. Their offense, both of those offense aren't getting to the red zone. And I just think his price at 8.8K, okay, unless he rips a big one, that's the way he's going to pay off. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm out on Matt Ryan. That guy looks like he has if there was ever a noodle arm, it was definitely him, But Saquon, okay, so we mentioned Chubb, Saquon, Eckler, man.
Yeah.
I think in this game, I want Eckler. I think he's gonna be very low owned. I think everybody has that sour taste, of him letting you down 2 of the 3 weeks, and even his second week was only like 18 points, and that was on a I think it was Monday night, right? Monday night or Thursday night football.
Yeah.
So he wasn't even there, but dude, like 4 attempts, 5 yards, that is freaking bad. Like I had Eckler probably in like 5 rosters last week, and I'm still mad about it. I didn't even have that much exposure to him, but I think his ceiling, dude, 18 targets in the last 2 weeks. I mean, for the season, he has 21 receptions, so that's great. That saves his ass. And I think in this game, he's gonna break out. You're getting him at 7.7K too, I believe, right? That's his price.
Yep.
So 7.7K, not a lot. He's gonna be a very low-owned play. It's gonna be GPP. You got to be different somehow. And sometimes you just like I love the Olave call last week. Jeff called him, and I was like on him too, and it helped me out. But shout out to Matt Holland, man.
Yeah.
You are the man. We had a lot. I talked about him on the Sunday show, but I think I want Eckler for that mid-tier low owned. I love the Chubb call too.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's
the
go ahead.
one stat I had on that one is that Houston is giving up 4 yards before first contact. But unfortunately, the Chargers are bottom 5 in the league in terms of adjusted line yards. and Rashawn Slater is obviously out. So it's going to be a battle of the worst.
Yeah.
One of the worst offensive lines versus one of the worst defensive lines. But I love it, Ecker. Houston is a straight run funnel. They're going to try and establish the run early in that game. So I'm going to have Eckler this weekend too.
Good stuff.
All right.
Let's move down to the mids here, Tim. You want to take the chalk guy here?
I do. Yeah, I literally put chalk next to his name, right? Gerson mentioned him a little bit when talking about Khalil Herbert, and that's Jamal Williams. Obviously, DeAndre Swift is out this week. He gets a matchup at home against the Seattle Seahawks. The one thing we've seen is that they will use him around the goal line, right? That's where his value comes from. When they get in close, they punch it in with Jamal Williams. And this week, he's going to get the volume and not just the goal line usage. I don't know how much they're going to use him in the passing game, which usually you do want on DraftKings, but he's usually good for 2 or 3 targets. And I'm projecting about 15 to 18 carries. So he's going to be around 20 touches for 6,100. That's really hard to beat, and that's why he'll be so popular.
And he has the 6th highest best odds for like running back to score at -106. Yeah. So that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. Like, okay, he has been a touchdown machine so far, but like I'm more worried: are they going to get to the red zone, dude? Are they going to get there without the sun god? You know, it's just why play the chalk when he might bust, right? Like last week we were all over Stephon Diggs. He might bust, you know? And it happened. He busted, dude. But
the one thing I will tell you is the Seattle Seahawks are giving up basically 5 yards a carry right now. And we know Dan Campbell is going to establish the run. Mm-hmm. So he's going to get his carries. If he gets 100 yards, he needs 1 touchdown and he can pay off without any pass game volume. So I agree. They may only make 1 trip into the red zone, but if they score, it's probably on the back of Jamal Williams.
Good stuff. All right, so that's pretty much the mid. Actually, Tim, you got one more guy there.
I know. I was going to say, I've been trying to avoid talking about Packers.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Let me talk about my guy real quick, and then we'll get to yours. Mine, Javonte Williams. Again, it's a pivot play. It's not going to be one of the higher owned plays. Going against the Raiders at 6.6. I think people are kind of burned by him from last week. He didn't, at least in season long, he didn't do so well. But I think he's going to be fine. He's still involved heavily in the passing game, obviously. I know he's split with Melvin Gordon, but I do think he still has enough ability to put up some good points there at 6.6.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, talk about your boy.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about A.J. Dillon. You guys know I don't like to talk about Packers, but this is a week where I feel like he's in play. 2 reasons he's in play. One, this is a weird running back slate, right? You're going to have 2 guys that are going to be 30 to 40% owned in tournaments. So you're looking for guys that you can pivot off of those that have a somewhat similar projection and a game script that could allow them to go off. And I think A.J. Dillon meets both of those requirements, right? Obviously, Mac Jones is out. Brian Hoyer's going to start. The Packers are at home. And when they get out ahead, they don't run Aaron Jones. They run A.J. Dillon. There's a good chance he may get the entire, most of the second half or at least the entire fourth quarter as the only running back in the game. And the Patriots are bottom 10 in terms of defense against the run. So I think this is how they're going to attack the Patriots. That's why I took Aaron Rodgers out of my quarterbacks. If you want to pivot off of the chalk in the mid-range, I really like A.J. Dillon this week.
Well, you actually had Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback?
No, I had him as one of my quarterback options, as a kind of a punt play. But, because that's why I took him off, because I think he may only end up throwing the ball 20, 25 times in this game, and they'll run it 40. So,
it'll be a very, Bear-esque game, kind of like what they did to the Bears, just run it to a billion times.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to talk about one of the value guys here because I want to just get to this guy. When I first saw this price, I thought it was a misprint on Rashad Penny at 4.9. Yeah. He's getting 70% of the snaps. He has a great matchup against the Lions, who give up the most points to running backs. They're 24th DVOA versus the run. I don't know how they're putting him here at 4.9. I know he hasn't really blown up yet, but I mean that price tag is just too good to pass up. So 4.9, Rashad Penny will be in a lot of my lineups this week. Gerson, you have a guy there that I also have in mine as well. But talk about Damian Pierce.
Hold on, give me a second. Rashad Penny has played the Lions. He played them last year in week 17. Do you know his stat? 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6.8 yards per carry. This defense hasn't changed very much.
No.
So if they do the same thing, that could be a hell of a game for 4.9K. And right now, like out of my 150 rosters, he's in 41 rosters of that. So
I have one more thing to add to that. In 3 weeks, Detroit has given up 4 top 12 running back performances. So
in 3 weeks, they gave up 2 in one game.
They gave up 2 in one game. Yeah.
Damn. Dude.
So, I have 2 guys, but I want to talk about Ramondre Stevenson. He was going to be in the puke stack I talked about earlier as a bring back for Aaron Rodgers. He's been getting about 60+% of the snaps with Ty Montgomery out. He's their preferred third down back. And the way this game script is going to play out, the Patriots are expected to be down for a good chunk of this game. They're not going to be running Damian Harris. They're going to be running Ramondre Stevenson. He had a couple of nice runs last week. Nobody will basically be on him. I think he could get 7 or 8 targets. Brian Hoyer will check the ball down. So at 5,200, I think he's got a pretty nice floor, and I think he'll be very low owned.
Good stuff. All right, Gerson, you got one more guy in your values here. Go ahead and talk about Mr. Damian Pierce.
Dude, I wish we could put like memes up, like, like memes like, so fuck me, huh? Like, okay, Tim. I was gonna talk about Damien Pierce, man. No, I love you guys. I'm just kidding, man. No, Damien Pierce, man. I don't know about you guys, but if a running back fumbles 2 times in one game, they're usually in the doghouse, right? Like they're not doing anything else. But it's just crazy how much I don't know what Damien Pierce did with Lovie Smith, but these guys must be eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner together every day because this guy has like a love affair for him. But Pierce is getting the volume. He's at a great price, and Burkhead's not going to do much. I'm one of those people like I will ride that train until the wheel falls off. And if his price tag doesn't go up, I'm just going to keep riding him. And it's a good pivot away from those other value running backs, You never know. I think, let me see. I have him at 6% ownership. You're going from a running back that's probably going to be 20 to 15% to 6%. And he's 5.6K against the Chargers. Chargers defense is not good, guys. It is not good. They're hurting. And we just saw, who did they just give up a big game to?
James Robinson.
Yeah, James Robinson. Big ass. He's almost the same type of running back. They're both very similar. So 5.6K against the Chargers. I love the price. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna try to use him more of like a pivot point away from the chalk.
Yeah. I had a stat on him as well. You mentioned James Robinson, but so they played the Chargers have played 3 games. Obviously, first week they played the Raiders. Jacobs had 5.5 yards per carry. Week 2 they played the Chiefs. CEH had a 9.2 yards per carry, and then last week James Robinson had a 5.9 yards per carry. Damian Pierce, if he gets 15+ carries, I think he's gonna be money at that 5.6 price. Only guy I had left on my list, I'll mention this real quick, is Breece Hall. Got 11 targets last week. Hopefully, Zach Wilson's going to be back this week. Hopefully, he's still going to be that check down guy.
No, they're going back to Michael Carter, man. I already feel it. Zach Wilson. I've always said this. Running back targets are a QB stat. Okay, that's why Christian McCaffrey isn't getting them with Baker, and Joe Flacco will check it down. Zach Wilson will not. I'm very, very worried about Breece Hall with Zach Wilson at quarterback. I think they're going to go with Michael Carter and try and run their old offense.
I'm very worried about the Jets fan base. They're going to fucking go ballistic after they see that Zach Wilson is worse than Joe Flacco.
I know. We've come a long way from the MILF Hunter, right? Going into the season, Zach Wilson, the MILF Hunter, was like the best Jets quarterback in long time. Right. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh man, that Joe Flacco, man, we can't bench him. Right. The Cowboys are going to deal with when Dak comes back too, but we won't talk about that right now.
Yeah, that motherfucker.
All right. We're moving here at a good pace. Let's go ahead and get to our receivers.
And now, wide receivers.
All right, Gerson, you only have one receiver in your elite tier, so go ahead and talk about the.
Do I get my lock it in, or are we going to wait on that?
Oh, my bad. I'm not used to it. Still getting used to it.
Lock it in.
All right, so the easy option here to lock it in would have been one of the top guys, but I'm going to go pay down a little bit and give you some options. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb, right? If I'm going to tell you he's number 3 in the league in terms of target share behind Cooper Kupp and Mark Andrews. and he has a 38% target share under Cooper Rush. Absolutely insane. We saw last week Cooper Rush hit him on a deep throw, hit him basically in the chest, should have walked in for a touchdown. He shrugged it off on the next drive, threw it right back to him on the post, and got the touchdown. So I think CeeDee Lamb is in an absolute smash spot this week. And due to roster construction, a lot of people are going to be paying up or paying down into the mid-range. So he's only going to be maybe 10 or 15% owned when I think he should be a 20+% owned play. So 6,700. I love CeeDee Lamb this week. I think he's a smash play.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
He has to catch one. Yeah, he'll catch one eventually. Right?
Yeah, eventually he'll catch those wide open ones. He can catch the one-handed covered in the end zone ones just fine. It's the ones where he's wide open that he can't catch.
Yeah.
All right, Gerson, talk about your elite.
I'm actually shocked that Tim didn't say it, but he always does. But he has that Monday night pricing.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that's true.
So
if he didn't play on Monday night, he would be what, 7,500, something like that.
7,300. I'm not giving that. He dropped too many balls. Yeah, I think last week he was the shock of the week, right? Stephon Diggs, he was the most popular play. He sucked dick, but okay. 7 receptions, 74 yards. We were expecting a touchdown. We're expecting 21, 25 points, right? This week we're right back at it. I think he's gonna be shocked. This game environment, I'm targeting it like no other. This is gonna be besides the Cleveland Brown and the Falcon game, which is kind of weird to say, but this game is the king of king. I'm telling you this, a lot of sharp players in the industry are probably going to do 150 max of this game. They're going to stack this game.
Left and right.
You can do it in any way because there's cheap plays, there's high price plays, and there's a lot of values out there. Running back, wide receivers, tight end. We just mentioned a bunch of them. But give me this game. Give me Stephon Diggs at his price, 8,400. Volume, that's what I look for. Gabriel Davis might not play. If he's out, that 8.4K price is going to look so pretty. He's going to get so many targets. I mean, the guy gets target. We've seen him get target every week. I get the whole narrative of like, you don't want to play the shock, but this is a shock you want to play. If this secondary is horrendous, and we're already seeing it. We saw it last year. The theme is going to keep going. They're bad this year, and he has over 24 targets in the last 2 games. It's not going to slow down either if Gabriel Davis is out. Keep an eye on that.
This was a stat I didn't have earlier for Josh Allen, but Baltimore is number 1 in terms of fantasy points given up to wide receivers.
Good stuff. All right, Tim, you got the other elite guy there, and then I'll talk about the mid-tier.
Yeah, Pittman. Michael Pittman, I really like him this week. I think I mentioned earlier I like Jonathan Taylor. Apparently, I just like the Colts this week. That's probably going to burn me. But part of that is just how bad Tennessee is. So when I was looking this up, I was just talking about fantasy point over expectation. Tennessee is number 2 in the league in terms of fantasy points over expectation. The only other team worse is the Rams, and they're not on the schedule. So clearly you want to attack Tennessee through the air as well. And the only thing Tennessee is good at defending is the slot. Michael Pittman mostly lines up outside. So I think everything kind of lines up for him to have a big game here. At 7,200, he's a little bit cheaper. I think he's got a good target volume.
Good stuff. All right, those are the 2 guys I had in my elite tier as well. So I'll move down into the mid tier. And this one was a surprise to me. This one was a late addition to the sheet. And it was I got it from a podcast that Gerson suggested that I listened to. It was the Fantasy Footballers DFS podcast, and they mentioned this guy, and I had to go look up his stats. But Tyler Lockett at 5.9, he's had 11 targets in the last 2 games, and I didn't even realize it. I had to go back and check that stat. But yeah, 11 targets in the last 2 games. He's playing the Lions. We mentioned how bad their defense is. Geno Smith has actually looked pretty competent as a quarterback. We all kind of joked that supposed to be Drew Lock starting and Geno Smith, but he's actually looked pretty good. They did a side-by-side comparison of Geno Smith and Russell Wilson, and Geno Smith got better stats than Russell Wilson right now, which is crazy to think. But yeah, Lockett is one of my good plays. And I haven't looked at the cornerback matchup. They mentioned it on the podcast, but apparently this is the number 2 cornerback of Seattle is the one you want to go up against, which is what Lockett will be seeing most of.
Yeah, Awaria. Yeah, I think Okudah is mostly going to be shadowing DK Metcalf. So I think Lockett, who's splits his time between the slot and outside, is going to be looking at either the number 2 or number 3 corner.
Dude, Okuda's good too. He just got hurt.
Yeah. He's
Tyler
stepping up for sure.
Tyler Lockett ownership is high too, guys. So he's a good play, 5.9K. He's coming in at 16.7% ownership. That is fucking high for a wide receiver.
That is high.
For a good reason. And I have a great pivot off him too. But
all right, we'll go ahead and go ahead. Give us your mid tier.
Well, so like when you guys name your prices on mid tier, I totally didn't put 5.9K as a mid tier, but my favorite mid tier play is definitely Cortland Sutton. I've watched every Broncos game, sadly, but it's mostly because they've either been on Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, or they've just been playing on TV.
Yep.
And I'm not a Broncos fan. I'm a Raiders fan. And I'm going to watch the next Broncos game because they're playing the Raiders. What do you know?
Yep.
Apparently, I like the Broncos. No, I'm just kidding. Sutton's 6.4K, man. That's cheap for a wide receiver that I think is more of a top 12 wide receiver this year, maybe,
Yep.
you know? He's getting the volume. He's getting the target. Dude, Russell Wilson does not fucking like tight end. I'm learning that. Even if you have a talented tight end like Albert O, which I think he's very athletic and can get open. Dude, that motherfucker will be open. He still won't throw it to him. No. And he has not clicked with Jerry Jeudy. And I don't even know how healthy Jerry Jeudy really is. He is going to play, but really, how healthy is he? But he loves Sutton. Sutton is getting, I believe, let me see, I had it right here, my stat. 28% of the target shares, and he has 38% of air yard share. So when I say 38% air yard share, like that's a lot for a guy that sometimes they don't get connected. If they get connected, they get clicking. I can see a 150-yard game and like let's say 8 receptions. You know, I don't know about a touchdown. I mean, the Raiders defense is stout.
Yeah. So one thing I want to follow up there, Gerson. So obviously, game 1, Jerry Jeudy, had a good game, but game 2 and game 3, Cortland Sutton's target percentage is 35%. 35% target share over the last 2 games. So that's crazy. I love the Sutton call. We didn't talk about Russ in the quarterback section, but I think he's a good play too. Sorry, Gerson, but the Raiders aren't really stopping much of anything. Okay.
Trust me, I know the Raiders ain't doing shit.
Hey, so you talked about this earlier, Gerson. One of our favorite games of the week, and it's really crazy to say, is the Browns and the Falcons, right? Because the Falcons are a terrible defense. Honestly, both of these defenses are pretty bad, particularly if Cleveland's going to be out their top 2 pass rushers. So I like the wide receivers on both sides of this game. They're 2 of my favorite plays. I'll talk about Amari Cooper. I'm going to take the other side of that one. I noticed neither one of you guys had him. So 6.3K. Again, this is somebody, first game we were like, okay, he's got absolutely no, he's got no connection with Jacoby Brissett. And then the last 2 games, it seems like that's all Jacoby Brissett's been looking for, right? Last 2 games, 10 targets, 9 catches, 101 yards, 11 targets, 7 catches, 101 yards. So back-to-back 101-yard games for Amari Cooper. He's 6,300 against Atlanta Falcons who can't stop anybody. So I think if they win this game, and Njoku's a little bit banged up, it's going to be Amari Cooper just running wild on that Falcons secondary.
I like it. So the only mid-tier guy that I have that we haven't talked about yet, Rashad Bateman at 5.6. He had a down week last week, but I actually watched this game because Baltimore is close enough where I get all the local games. He had a pass that was just off his fingertips that would have been like a 60-yard touchdown. If he had caught that pass, his price would have probably been a lot higher than 5.6. So he just missed a big game last week. So I do think that he's the guy. If it's not Mark Andrews, it's Bateman in that offense that Jackson's looking for. So at 5.6, I think that's a pretty good play. And the game that we mentioned a couple times here as having the highest total on the slate. Points will be scored in that game. So Bateman is my mid-tier.
He's 5.6?
5.6. Yeah.
Wow.
5.6.
Yeah. True. In this game, he's 3% owned on ownership.
Yeah.
Like,
because he had a bad game last week and people are down on him. But literally that ball hit him on the fingertips. If it had been an inch in, he would have caught it and it would have been a touchdown. It would have been a whole different story.
So if he would have caught that, he would probably have like 120 yards, right? So and then
a touchdown.
Back-to-back week, touchdown, 100-yard game. Oh yeah, he would have been like 15% owned.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed. All right, we got a bunch of receivers. Let's go back through one more time, Gerson. Give us another one of your guys. Actually, you have one guy left that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
Talk about AJ Brown, who's mentioned in the chat as well.
So A.J. Brown to me is what I like to say, boom or bust, man. Like, I feel like that's what we get from him, you know? And so far, he's been booming. I mean, business is good when you get paid, right? But I love him with the stack. If I'm playing A.J. Brown, I'm not playing him as a one-off. I'm playing him with Jalen Hurts as a stack. Because to pay up $7.4K for A.J. Brown, I don't know how comfortable I would feel that as a one-off when I can feel like a lot of my stacks, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Mariota, sadly. But goodness, I can't believe we just talked about Mariota, Ryan, Gino. Like, oh my goodness. Herbert, you know, like, that's the thing. Like, a lot of those guys have top tier wide receivers that I have to, like, you know, I can't do a one-off because it's going to cost me a lot.
Yep.
But give me A.J. Brown as a stack with him. But I'm looking at his volume, man. The guy is going so good. Like 10 targets, 8 targets, 13 targets. I mean, that's a lot for a wide receiver. He's doing awesome. He's doing everything he needs to, right? I mean, he got paid. I mean, I need to find like a wood. I think that's what let's just hope he doesn't get hurt, you know, in the mid-game. But 2.7 times value week 3, and then week 1 he went 4.5, and last week he was 7,300, almost the same price. If we can get 20 points out of him, awesome. And fucking Jalen Hurts, he loves to target him. He's not shy. Like, he just peppers him with targets, and I've seen him do it in double coverage too. Hurts. I'm telling you guys, man, like, this guy might be an MVP this year.
Yeah, he's definitely on track for that. All right, so I'm going to mention we got a bunch of values to get to. So Tim had a few more guys in his mid-tier. London at 6.1, Drake London for Atlanta. Curtis Samuel at 5.7, and Deontay Johnson, who's going to be pretty chalky, I think, at 6K, or his other mid-tiers. I just wanted to mention those guys. We'll move down into the value tier, and I'll give you one of my guys real quick. Josh Palmer at 5K against Houston with Keenan Allen out. He becomes a big part of that offense. He had 8 targets in week 2 without Allen, 9 targets in week 3 without Allen. So no Allen once again. So they need some help at the receiver position. I think Josh Palmer at 5K is a pretty good pivot off some of the more chalkier plays. Gerson, let's go to you and get one of your values.
No, I didn't even think of this, and someone in the chat mentioned it. Patterson might not play, Cordell Patterson. So I know we've been talking about that game, but check on Sunday's show for Tyler Algier take. I'm sure I'll cover that. But no, my value, I wanted to talk about this guy, but I'm going to have a lot of DJ Moore this week. A lot. Okay. I think he's due for a bounce back. I don't know if you guys saw the interview. They asked him, like, what do you think of your coach saying your wide receivers need to get open? He, like, legit, like, oh, my coach said that? Fuck you then, man. I'm going to show you, man. You know, like, he didn't say that, but he should have. And I love Steve Smith has to be the most OG TV commentator, or whatever you want to call him, co-analysis, or whatever you want to call him, but he just keeps it real, man. But more 5,300. I can't remember the last time he was 5K, dude. Yeah, this guy's always been a 6K wide receiver, man. But give me DJ Moore. I think they have to change something. If this offense doesn't change this game, I'm calling it right now. Matt Rule is getting fired next week. Yeah. He's getting fired. Like, if they lose this game, he's getting fired. And the sad thing is, if they hand this coaching staff over to what's his name, dipshit, former coach from the Giants, help me out here.
I can't think of his name either.
Yeah, he's the creepy guy with the greased up hair for the Giants. Oh man, if anybody in the chat room mentions it, let me know. But 5.3K. He's coming in at 9% ownership against the Arizona Cardinals. We've seen them give up points to wide receivers. Definitely want to have shares of him. And guys, please pray that Christian McCaffrey
Ben McAdoo.
Ben McAdoo, yes, thank you. Yeah, I mean Ben McAdoo. I mean that guy's fucking horrible. Yeah, so there you go.
We'll try and get a drop for this guy if he keeps showing up on the show, but. I'm Rick James, bitch. It's Ricky James, man. Ricky James. There's nobody left to throw the ball to on the Giants. This guy gets probably the best target projection on the team, and he's only 4K. So I'm not going to talk about my Packer. I've met my allotment of one Packer I've talked about on this show. So my value play, this guy was my number one value play that was not a quarterback, Ricky James, projected for over 3 times value, about 12.5 points at 4K. So it's going to be hard to get away from him in cash. But if you play Saquon, I would not play any other Giants. Just put that out there.
All right, I'll talk about the guy you didn't want to talk about, Mr. Romeo Doubs. Of course, you had him as your sit call last week. Tim is now 3 for 3 on a sit call. It's pretty awesome. At 4.5 versus New England, obviously we saw what he can do last week. He has Aaron Rodgers' trust. The best way to get Aaron Rodgers' trust, if he throws you 8 passes, you catch 8 passes, which is what he did last week. So I think that this is going to continue into week 2. Into this next week here against New England at 4.5. He's still a great value. So I have a ton of him. Is there anybody y'all want to talk about? I'm just going to mention him. If not, we'll move to our defenses. Is there anybody you wanted to talk about specifically?
No, I
was just going to talk about Josh Reynolds. I think he's one of my favorite plays in this range with the sun got out. I think he has the connection with Jared Goff. Some people are going to go to DJ Chark, but I think I'd rather play Josh Reynolds.
Okay. I'll mention a couple guys that I had that are pivot plays, but Zay Jones versus Philly. He check his status. He's had an ankle injury. If he plays, he's been getting a ton of targets in that offense, kind of under the radar. Mac Hollins, I know people think it was a flash in the pan last week when Renfro was out, but Renfro was in the game the week before that, and he still had 8 targets in that game as well. So I think Mac Jones is still a big part of that offense at 4.2.
And Renfro's out again too, so.
Yep. He's definitely rolled out. I hadn't seen that yet.
Yeah, he's rolled out again. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's out.
Good stuff. All right. So, Mac Collins definitely is in my lineups now. And then Dortch, we've talked about him pretty much since week 1 at 5,000 right now. He's still getting a ton of targets there. They have nobody to throw to. So I think that'll continue into this week as well.
Rondale Moore may play this week, so keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the DFS chat, and this guy said, well, he's kind of gadgety. I'm like, well, Dortch is kind of playing his role. So if he comes back, I don't know how that's going to work, but I think Dortch at 5K is going to be.
I actually, real quick before we move on, so AJ Green is out this week. Rondale Moore may play. Greg Dortch may play. So Al tweeted out that Kyler Murray's receivers this week are members of the Lollipop Gang. None of them are above 6 foot. Yeah,
that's crazy. It's like a bunch of peewees out there playing with NFL players. All right, let's get to our defense.
Defense.
All right, Tim. It's been a little bit since you've hit on these defenses. Gerson's been hitting.
Going to Gerson first. Yeah, it's Gerson first.
All right, we'll go to Gerson first. Give us your defenses, Gerson.
No, shut the hell up. Go to Tim first. He's always been. Just because I hit on a couple of them, don't mean that I take over the 4 years. The last 4 years, he's been hitting.
No, okay. I'll go. To me, the clearer cash game defense is the Chicago Bears, right? They get to play against Daniel Jones with limited receivers, and this game's probably going to be in a storm. It's right now. I mean, obviously, keep an eye on weather Sunday morning, but it's projected to rain, heavy wind, and we know that's how Chicago wins games, right? They run the ball and they play defense. So. Hold that for a Gerson stack here just in a minute. But if I'm playing the Bears pretty much everywhere, if I'm not playing the Bears, I'll probably pivot down to maybe the Broncos. They're same price, less ownership.
Okay. All right, Gerson, you got a couple defenses that he didn't talk about.
So defense was tricky for me, but there was one defense that stood out above all of them. And I think you're going to have to pay up for them. It's definitely the Pittsburgh Steelers. If there's 3 things I hate in life, pickles, cancer, and Zach Wilson. There we go. I mean, Zach Wilson, man, I can't tell you, like, this guy just – I don't think he's good. And, Jeff, you know me. Like, we talked about in his rookie year, like, Dynasty podcast and all that. I've said that Zach Wilson is a bust. He was playing with high school peewee football players. I mean, and he hasn't shown me anything in the NFL where I can think that he's even decent. Like, okay, maybe he has that rushing upside. That's what's probably saving him. But against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense at Pittsburgh, I'm worried for him, man. I think 3.7K is expensive, but there's value on this slate. You can probably pay up for him, It's a contrarian take, though. It's a contrarian take because you're going to pay up. And right now they're at hold on, let me see my ownership on them. Sorry. They're the highest owned team, 9.7%. So I think that ownership's going to come down, though. I don't think it stay the highest. There's no way. People are going to be like, oh, I don't want to pay up for defense. They always do.
Yep.
Hey,
I will say there is one pay up defense I like. Geoff was talking about the charts that I posted in the chat. So when it comes to the fantasy defense chart, there were two teams that were off by themselves. One was the Chicago Bears. The other one was the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if you can afford $3,500 for defense like he was talking about. I think you're going to pay the Steelers if you pay up. But Carson Wentz got absolutely demolished by the Eagles last week. That offensive line is trash. He takes entirely too many sacks. We know Micah Parsons gets after the quarterback. And I think this could be really, really ugly for the I almost called him the Redskins, for the Commanders. So if you can afford, if you can get up to the Cowboys, I think that it's well worth the money you will invest.
Good stuff. And I only had one defense that I want to mention that it's basically the Texans at 2.4 because of the price. We mentioned the Chargers haven't looked really good offensively or defensively. The Jags last week or 2 weeks ago shut them down. At 2.4, they're definitely worth it. They haven't scored less than 7 points as a defense. So I think that's a pretty decent punt defense. All right, let's get to our stacks.
Goingfor2.com's weekly stack report.
All right, Gerson, so you had talked about your stack a little bit, so you kind of hinted towards it. So go ahead and give us your stack. Yours is a unique stack that we don't do very often on this show, but I like it.
Yeah, we usually do running back, wide receiver, opponent, tight end, like a run back. This one's different, man. It's going to be the chalk running back, Khalil Herbert, with probably a lower-owned defense to Chicago Bears. I think the Bears – I don't think this defense has really, hit their ceiling at all. And they have great defense leaders. I love Roquan Smith. I think he's one of the best players in the NFL. I think he's a top 20 player. This guy is a stud. And we saw it last week. If you owned him in IDP, dude, this guy went off for 30 fucking points, dude. He got 17 tackles, a game-winning interception, basically. I mean, the guy is a stud. Give me this game. Give me $2,700 to save money on defense. Give me the running back that you're probably going to pivot away from Jamal Williams to get a lower owned. He's not going to be the lowest owned, though. The lowest owned Damien Pierce of those pivot. But give me him, and I'm going to stack both of them. And now the great thing about this, my stacks, you can stack them with the stack on stack with whatever Tim or Geoff says.
Yeah, it's a good call. You have a double stack in there. All right, Sam, give us your stack.
Yeah, this is a budget stack kind of. Marcus Mariota, Drake London, and coming back with Amari Cooper. We've talked about that game multiple times. Great scoring environment. Very little defense will be played. One of the highest over-unders in the on the slate. And the best part is it's being played in a dome, so we don't have to worry about any weather issues.
Yeah, it's a good stack there. Now, I had a hard time picking a stack. I literally just picked my stack about 5 minutes ago.
You just changed it.
Yeah, because I've been messing with it all day, and I couldn't come up with a stack. So I went with the chalk. This is like the chalk of the chalk with Josh Allen, Diggs, and then bringing it back with Bateman. If you could find a way to fit in Mark Andrews other than Bateman, but I try to do it. You really got to punt some plays to get that in there. But Allen, Diggs, Bateman, you can fit because Bateman is so cheap at 5.6. So I'll go with the very chalky stack there with those three guys. That's my stack of the week.
Hey, Geoff, I think you missed on your fourth value quarterback on your sheet. Did you see that?
I did see that. He is not on the slate, sir. He cannot play Jimmy G this week.
My note was that he sucked. Because Geoff kept putting notes on all his teams. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this.
All right, let's get to the sick call.
And now, the sick call of the week.
All right, so in the history of this show, however it's been, 4 or 5 years, whatever it's been, nobody has ever gone 3 weeks straight with hitting their sick call. We barely even hit 2 weeks straight sometimes. And Tim has gone 3 weeks straight to start the season. He had Dotson in week 1. He had Evan Ingram in week 2, and he had Dobbs last week. So play this guy. Whoever Tim says out of his mouth in this one, play this guy. Go ahead, Tim.
I tried to go extra sick this week, right? Because I felt like maybe I was picking guys that were too easy. So I went with Khalif Raymond for the Detroit Lions. So he is the backup slot wide receiver. I think he's going to get a good a big number of snap increase with Amon-Ra St. Brown out. I did mention earlier I love Josh Reynolds and the upgrade that he's going to get this week, but he'll be popular. Nobody will be playing Khalif Raymond at 3,100. So just a complete punt play. He has no floor. But if you want a crazy punt play, maybe your Geno or Jared Goff stacks, I like Khalif Raymond for about 10 or 11 points.
Yeah, he's one of those big play guys too, like 3,100. He breaks a big play, scores a touchdown, boom, you've already made your value right there. So
yeah, absolutely. He can't really hurt you too much.
I love it.
You have him for 11 points, you said?
No, I said I think he can get you 10 or 11 points. Yeah, I don't know.
God
That's
damn,
probably
dude.
his ceiling.
Yeah.
That's his ceiling. All right, Gerson, what do you got for your sick call?
I have a wide receiver that looks like Tim. He's white.
Every wide receiver looks like Tim.
No, I was gonna say.
Andy Dalton looks a lot like Tim. He's gonna.
No, I was gonna say. I think I'm playing quarterback for the Cowboys for one more game. So.
Hey, Cooper Rush too. I have Alec Pierce, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. Nobody knows who he is really, unless you play Dynasty. But if you were playing Dynasty, you knew you were watching Desmond Ridder, but there was a guy that kept coming down with the ball over and over and over, kept making plays. It was Alec Pierce. This guy, he's very talented. He's getting worked in, right? Last week, he got 5 targets, 3 receptions, 61 yards. And on one of those receptions, he could have had a big gain, but basically, noodle arm over here came up short. I can't believe we just mentioned like 5 Indianapolis Colts players. Like, just crazy.
Like all the Colts apparently.
Yeah, we're all in, dude. But I think he was hurt. He was hurt one game. He came back last week, 61 yards, three receptions. I mean, that's 9 points right there. That's what you're looking for at 3.9K. I think in this game environment, he's gonna have to come out because, dude, Tennessee and Indianapolis Colts, it's gonna be a really sad game. But I just don't know, man. Like, is Ryan fried up? Is he done? Like, what?
That's what I said. Like, and when I did him as my value, this has to be the game where he shows us something, or it's just after this, he's pretty much done because this is the best matchup he's had all year. He's got to do something here with the Tennessee Titans, or it's not going to look good.
Yeah, usually when people think of white wide receivers, they think of like your Julian Edelmans and your Cole Beasleys. No, not Alex Pierce. This dude's built like more like Jordy Nelson, right? 6'3", 211, right? This dude's a beast.
He's built like Tim Struggle. 185, all muscle, 5% body fat. He goes out there and flag football on Sundays and gets tacos after.
I do. I only do it for the tacos, man. You know that.
All right, so my sick call, I actually wrote him up in my Fantasy Pros value column. I do a shot in the dark play every week, kind of like a sick call, very similar. It's George Pickens. I think this is the George Pickens breakout week. He's got a great matchup with the Jets. He's 3.8. We've seen flashes of what he can do. I mean, that catch he made, was it last week?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, just insane.
Thursday night football.
Exactly. It was insane. So at 3.8, I think against the Jets, he can finally have his coming out party and join all these rookie receivers having good seasons so far. So George Pickens is my sick call.
Did you see his video where he was wide open? He's like, fucking looking at Trubisky like, motherfucker, I'm open.
Dude, I like how he made that catch, and instead of being like, "Yeah, man, it was
God.
a great catch," he was like, I've had better catches.
Yeah.
It's only one of my best. No big deal.
Good stuff. All right, fellas, that wraps up yet another show. Let's go around the room real quick. Give us your Twitter handle, and of course, plug the Facebook group as well. We'll go to you first, Gerson.
Yeah. Catch me on the Sunday show. It's very important, I think. I think it's underrated how important that show is because on the Sunday show, we get all the news. We get the injuries. We get the weather. You get my personal opinion or my updated. Like, I do research during the week, obviously. But, like, that Saturday night research is, like, the Matrix on another level. Like, I'm looking at different shit. Like, I'm like, all right, I build a story. And then it comes Sunday morning, and these guys will tell you, I am the first one in the chat at 4 o'clock in the morning, putting them in a comment because I wake up that early. And then Jeff can confirm it because I scared the shit out of his wife 2 days in a row. 2 days in a row. She didn't expect me to wake up at 4 in the morning. I was up because I do research, show up. Jamie, Zach and I and
Benny.
Ben.
Ben.
Yeah. Damn it. I'll get this right one day. Yeah, just show up. And then we got a guest. I don't know who it is this week, but we always have a new guest every week for the fantasy show. It's awesome stuff. It's fun. We're having fun. Zach is killing it, man. I'm so excited. I love this show. I always look forward to it. But catch me on the Sunday show. Like, seriously. We say the answer to the test are on Sundays.
Yep, agreed. And just, to point that out, Mac Hollins, we didn't mention him on the show last week. Gerson mentioned him on that Sunday morning show. So if you watched the show, you would have caught that. So definitely need to catch that show in the morning.
Or Tua Tagovailoa the week before.
The week before you mentioned Tua, that's right.
45 points.
Yep. All right, Tim, what you got?
Yeah, find me on Twitter at Keto DFS, and then, like you mentioned, find me on Facebook in the DFS Roundtable chat. We always have our weekly threads going in there, so hop in.
Good stuff. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Geoff Lambert 77. We also have a free Discord. We've got DFS in there. We've got season long. We got dynasty. We got trade advice. We got sit starts. Everything. It's all free. So just go to goingfor2.com. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a little Discord icon. Click on that. You can join up and join the chat. We got, I think, 700 strong right now subs in that group. So there's some really good guys in there. 70 verified analysts from Twitter that I've got in there to answer some questions as well. So if you haven't joined yet, definitely do that. All right. That wraps up another week. For Tim, for Gerson, I'm Geoff. We will see y'all again next week, and good luck.
Go Pack, go!